I'm Megan Skidmore, and welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts on a faith journey and all aspects of life. Join me as I bring this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I firmly believe we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with asking questions and allowing doubts. When we are more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. Do any of these sound like you? Feeling inner turmoil and not quite sure of the source. Your job or finding a new job or career in midlife is hard. You freeze up when asked about your thoughts on hot button topics or any topics. Maybe you're lacking in self-confidence at work or in other areas of life. You have unresolved feelings of anger, betrayal, or lack of trust. You don't give yourself permission to have dreams, wants, or even needs. You're not feeling settled about your faith journey. You were taught there was only one way, and any other way is not going to bring happiness, peace, or joy. You don't feel safe sharing about where you are in your faith journey. You can't quite put a finger on who you are and what you want in life. Perhaps you're unsure where you stand with your or your child's identity. You're scared or worried to talk to others about these topics. You're struggling with feelings of anxiety or sadness or both. Feeling a little lost as you try to blaze your own trail forward. You feel like you have no control over where your life trajectory seems to be going, or you have difficulty verbalizing what is going on inside. Our brain changes as we age. Creating new pathways takes more time, a little more effort. Just as we're not ready to take in what we learn at the high school level while still in elementary, the same is true for all aspects of personal growth. We learn in layers as we become prepared for the next level of understanding. You know you're prepared for the next level when you start to feel an itch. You're agitated or unsettled. There's more out there and you want to access it. However, when it comes to verbalizing this very real need to those around you, you feel stumped, at a loss for words, emotionally unsafe or mentally stuck. You might say your voice is locked. I invite you to join my safe community of like-minded people, folks who are willing to embrace the discomfort that comes with growth and experience new possibilities and lean into the uncertainty of what's next. Doesn't sound like you? It can and will when you join me for my pilot hybrid group Unlocking Your Voice. Pilot because it's the first time, hybrid because it'll be a combination of group and individual through Voxer. It begins September 25th with the opportunity to join the Jumpstart bonus call if you sign up by September 19th. I'm offering this 14-week pilot round at an oh-so-reasonable cost of $999. For less than the average cost of your weekly mani and pedi, you can invest in you and your long-term growth by increasing your emotional resilience, finding your inner compass by leading with your core values, and increasing your awareness of the stories you may be telling yourself about the circumstances in your life. As you start to take your power back and own it, you'll see that you really can't put a price on investing in your long-term well-being. When it comes to relationships, whether with individuals, groups, or an institution, communication is what builds, creates, strengthens, and solidifies them. Using our authentic voice matters. I will give you the keys to learn how to do just that in Unlocking Your Voice. This benefits not only emotional, spiritual, and mental health, but increases your capacity to deepen and strengthen relationships. Think of it as adding another layer upon your present foundation, not leaving it behind. You've graduated emotional elementary or spiritual middle school and are ready for high school. You can feel yourself ready to expand and move from the either-or mindset to both and. Either or keeps you inside the box. Embracing the both and is the way out. For this round only, when you purchase a one-on-one coaching package with me, I am offering the opportunity to add the Unlocking Your Voice group as a bonus. No extra cost. This early bird bonus is good through September 19th. I offer 3 different payment options to make my work accessible to more individuals. The contributing level, you have means to access this care and pay it forward for others. Sustaining level, you are in a secure place to invest in your growth for yourself. And the receiving level, you have limited resources currently and are in a position to receive. Choose the level that feels aligned for you. This bonus offer to add the Unlocking Your Voice is available only for the contributing level. More information and all the links to register are in the show notes. If you have questions, click the link to schedule a Discover coaching call and bring them to a short chat. I can't wait to give you the keys to get back in the driver's seat. First Friday's free coaching, a confidential group to bring all the questions, vent frustrations, share fears, express doubts. Navigating a new and uncertain reality is hard enough. Let's remove the worry of judgment from others. In this group, I will help you help yourself so that you can be there for your child, family, loved ones, and for you too. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. You must complete the agreement. Welcome everyone to part 2 of Undifferentiated Faith. In part 1, I left off summarizing this pre-stage of faith that James Fowler describes in the 4 stages of faith. You could even call it a stage 0 of faith. And he said, and I'm repeating this from the last episode to kind of bridge the two, he said, in the pre-stage called undifferentiated faith, the seeds of trust, courage, hope, and love are fused in an undifferentiated way and contended with sensed threats of abandonment, inconsistencies, and deprivations in an infant's environment. And he says, though really a pre-stage, the quality of mutuality and the strength of trust, autonomy, hope, and courage, or their opposites that are developed in this phase, underlie or threaten to undermine all that comes later in a faith development. So then this is where we're going to continue now. He continues to talk about emergent strength of faith needed to move on to transition to stage 1. We're going to focus a little bit on the emergent strength of faith. He says the emergent strength of faith in this stage, 0 stage, remember, is the fund of basic trust and the relational experience of mutuality with the ones providing primary love and care. Okay, Fowler likes to use lots of big words. So let's break it down a little bit. Mutuality is just another word for sharing of a feeling or an action between 2 or more people. Basically a relationship. Emergent as an adjective means in the process of coming into being. As a noun, philosophically speaking, it can refer to an emergent property. For instance, in this case, faith and the strength therein is an emergent of this pre-stage called undifferentiated faith. So in other words, it's almost like a natural result, a byproduct or outcome of said process, this process of developing of these relationships and the strength of them, which comes from the seeds sown or conversely not sown. I'm talking about the seeds of trust, courage, hope, love, autonomy, etc., or the opposite of, and then the resulting fruit that comes. And then another word for fund, he uses this word fund, is repository or reserve. So let me go back. Let me go back and read what he said again. The emergent strength of faith in this stage is the fund of basic trust and the relational experience of mutuality with the ones providing primary love and care. So when he talks about this fund of basic trust, we are literally and even figuratively building this reservoir of trust, of hope, of love, etc., kind of like pouring in or taking out, as the case may be, a cup at a time with every one of these relational experiences, that idea of mutuality that he's talking about, and depending on the quality of the experience. So remember that these seeds of faith, courage, love, trust, and so on have been undifferentiated concepts thus far. If you remember from part 1, they are a sort of language of images, but the child is still learning the difference between them, like what distinguishes one from another through the relationships and the interactions therein. So we see this idea of starting out undifferentiated, moving to differentiation with maturity replicated in other areas. For instance, in nature, there's a lot of examples of undifferentiated entities that eventually become differentiated. Take, for example, cancer cells. In the very early stages, all of these cells look alike. It's only when they mature is when they become differentiated from one another. And you can tell that they are different. You're able to distinguish which are cancerous versus the healthy cells. Well, not me, but a scientist. And if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you know that I love gardening. In the plant world, it's hard to distinguish the weeds from actual vegetables or flowers until they begin to mature. When they are young and just popping out of the ground, to the naked human eye, they all look very similar. Additionally, what one region considers noxious and possibly a weed may not be the case in another part of the country or world. So I grew up in Arizona and there were oleanders everywhere, probably because they are drought resistant and they are a hardy plant for dry desert, arid landscape. So they grew everywhere. I remember my mom teaching me that they were poisonous. And so in my mind, they kind of developed weed status at that point. And so I tend to not find them tasteful whenever I see them intentionally placed in the landscape. That doesn't mean that they are. I just tend to see a weed. Another example is morning glory. Some are considered a weed and even regulated in parts of the US. For instance, the three-lobed morning glory is a Class C noxious weed and cannot be sold in Arizona. And there are some ferns that are considered to be weeds and invasives. Think about acorns that get planted by squirrels. They could be a nuisance to someone trying to cultivate a specific landscape in their yard when the oak seedlings start popping up all over, whereas in the countryside or a forest, it is a welcome, natural, and even needful occurrence. One summer, I was growing tomatoes that flourished from the amount of rain that we received. They were indeterminate, and so they just kept growing and growing. And they weren't the only thing that flourished. I found the ugliest, fattest caterpillars all over the plants. They had these pointy tips on either side of their head, little green bodies, and there were so very many of them. It was endless. It's hard to tell what type of creature a caterpillar is going to metamorphose, if that's a word, into. It could be a moth or it could be a butterfly. Butterflies are pollinators and good for your garden and also beautiful to watch. Moths can also be beautiful, but tend to be prone to causing damage and other problems. I really didn't know what to do, but they were pretty fat and happy, and I knew I had to do something quickly before they destroyed my tomatoes and disappeared into their cocoons. So I decided I was outnumbered and needed to release or rehome some of them. I tried giving some to my neighbor for her son's bearded dragon. Backfired. The bearded dragon almost choked because these were so big. I wasn't anticipating the text asking the next best, most humane way to dispose of them because they were literally eating through everything. Their teeth were razor sharp. I'm not going to tell you what I told her to do because I kind of feel like a monster. Unless you email me, then I'll tell you what I advised her to do. I looked it up on Google. And side note, did you know that caterpillar fluid, I guess you'd call it blood, is green? Kind of fascinating. Anyway, suffice it to say that the score was bearded dragon 1, hornworm 0. And my tomatoes didn't just survive, they thrived. I think we can learn a lot from nature and the process of differentiation. That is the only way to true growth. It brings in a natural balance and push-pull of opposite forces. Notice I didn't say opposing. There's a difference. This isn't war. Think about our faith journeys and the idea of differentiation versus undifferentiated faith. When we are young, it's normal and even expected that our faith, belief, and practice looks quite alike among us. What happens, though, when one matures physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and tries to allow their personal growth to take the natural path that it wants to follow? It may take them in unexpected, new and different places, and by different, I mean from the, quote, norm. Sometimes when this happens, they are told, no, that's wrong, and even shamed or ostracized for following their natural course, natural for them and their experience and learning and growth. It weakens communities if and when we interfere with the natural course of things. If we ignore or discourage or try to stop differentiation of one's faith development, I believe then we miss the bigger picture. We miss the whole point of growing faith organically by instead trying to grow it by force or by certainty or by one set prescribed path. We miss the beauty that is there to observe and that there are lessons to be had and discovered that will deepen and cement faith in ways not otherwise possible. What if we pulled up every tomato seedling out of fear of it being the weed that would take over the garden? What if we pulled up every morning glory because we were certain it was the one that is the Class C noxious weed that may choke out all of our other plants? There is so much to be learned and gained in the tension which exists in contradiction. When we do not lean into these natural tensions and try to, quote, weed them out, well, diversity is erased. Growth and evolution is stunted. Potential is interrupted and halted. We shortchange ourselves and our families and our communities. So what do we do instead? We encourage curiosity. We invite questions and even celebrate them. We normalize having doubts by creating more safe spaces to talk about them. Having doubts signifies that they are taking the very first steps that will eventually take or walk them down the path of critical thinking. Critical thinking is how thought leaders are born. Leaders who can both honor the past and humbly learn from it, doing better when they know better. They also respect the present while simultaneously hoping for more and then dreaming of this hopeful future and taking massive action to create it. I feel strongly about this. I believe the time is here for us as the collective human family to increase our tolerance for discomfort, to embrace differences, and lean into the tension that sometimes results from that. If you have been touched by something I have shared in this episode, I invite you and implore you, please forward this onto a friend or a neighbor or a family member. While you're at it, take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. This genuinely helps the podcast grow. I'd love to know your thoughts about this episode. Please shoot me an email or leave a comment. Until next time, thanks for being here. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.